Why are some people successful and why are some people not? And the one word is relationships. Focus on a relationship, value the relationship more than you value the transaction, right? So if I value my relationship with a client, right, and I put all of my time and my energy and I make sure that person feels loved and heard and seen, that person is going to become the biggest raving fan. I don't need to go out and actively just continuously prospect, because if I put love where the love needs to be, that person's going to go do it for me.
Because the management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
Welcome, LabCoatAgents. So, Michelle, I have many conversations with people that say social media, and today we're going to get very specific on Instagram. It just doesn't work. But you and I both know that there are many that do very much succeed. And I think it's our job to kind of convince, but also educate and teach those that are not having the same success, how to have success with Instagram. And honestly, I think what you're teaching is probably very usable across many of the platforms. So, Michelle, why do some succeed and some fail on Instagram?
Such a good question. And I want to preface, and if anybody who's here with Jeff and I, if you guys, anybody was at Inman last week, I'd love to know, comment in the chat box to let me know that you were there. I was there as well. And it was a very interesting week. There was a lot of positives, some really interesting and unique takeaways for me as a business owner, as well as a speaker and someone who's got to break bread with a lot of clients. The reoccurring theme for me with being there is this concept of what we're doing on social media and who we are on social media has to be who we really are in real life. Because when we take that relationship from a virtual relationship to a real life relationship, it can either be solidified or it can be broken. And so why are some people successful and why are some people not? I think the point of this comment or of this title is it comes down to one thing. It's, do you value the relationships you're building online the same way that you value the relationships that you meet or make in real life, even if it doesn't turn into a real life conversation immediately, right? And there's a ton of examples that we could go into. Jeff, you and I met virtually for the first time and known each other virtually for quite some time before we met in real life. And the list goes on and on and on of other people that are similar to that. But when we did meet in real life, the virtual relationship was solidified. It wasn't detracted from, right? So when you met me in real life, you're not like, that's not who I thought that was. And so I think it comes down to one thing. It's, do you value the time spent the same way you value calling people and going to offices or going to events and going and shaking hands or breaking bread, knowing that it's more of a long-term play than that in-person or real life handshake might be. And I think that's the true separator.
I agree. And should we tell everyone that we actually met on Tinder? I'm kidding.
Don't tell us.
Took you a second to laugh.
Don't tell our spouses
that. We met on Instagram, ironically. Yeah, I mean, I love how you articulated that actually, which was, it basically, to me, it validates it, right? It validates what happens in real life is validated by what has happened online. And I think, you know how I feel about this, and I'm gonna let you run with this, but and I just posted something on LabCoats yesterday where I made the statement that social media was designed for people to connect with people. And of course, there's always a naysayer that's arguing with me. Well, actually, it was designed to sell. I couldn't articulate everything that I wanted to say, but the point was for humans that are going to use the platforms, it was designed to connect. For a small percentage of people, they use it as an ad machine, which is why you pay for an ad. But organic posting was designed to connect. And we as a real estate world have taken that and feel like we should be selling all the time, when you really break down the psychology of why any Instagram user opens Instagram, it's not to see our real estate content. It's there for mindless content, edutainment, entertainment, education, those kind of things that they're interested in, right? And so, yeah, inspiration. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's understanding that, and like you said, connecting with people because you're real is so damn powerful. But I really want to get into the weeds with you on this and have you help explain and educate how there are actual strategies that you can implement to take this stuff to another level and actually turn it into business.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And again, the list is endless as far as how that can happen. But the true, for those of you guys who are watching this saying, you know, well, I haven't gotten that first lead before, or I feel like I'm putting a lot of time and effort into it and it just feels like it's not moving in the right direction. And I don't know why. The biggest thing I can tell you, the biggest takeaway, and if you want to bounce out right after I say this, because that's how important this statement is, you have to look at Instagram and conversations you're having. And I obviously, you know, anybody that knows me knows that I love Instagram, and Instagram is my platform of choice. It has been and will continue to be. But the reality is that it doesn't matter what the platform is, right? It could be LinkedIn, it could be TikTok, it could be Facebook, it could be whatever. Focus on one thing and one thing only. Have genuine conversations and do it every damn day, right? So if you're going to prospect like a normal traditional grassroots realtor might, right? Pick up the phone. And I saw on Instagram today, a client of mine, she makes 50 calls a day. That's her goal. And in my mind, I'm like, hell, that's a lot of calls. I don't ever want to have to make 50 calls a day ever again. And I don't think I've made a cold call in 2+ years, but that's besides the point. Can I and do I take the relationships seriously that I'm connecting with? So instead of scrolling on stories and just double tapping or leaving a heart eyeball emoji or some form of quick, fast reply, I'm doing two things. One, I'm actually watching it and reading it, or if it's a reel, I'm watching the whole 60 seconds of it. And then I'm leaving an intentional comment or conversation. Jeff, you were laughing about your daughter. My cat just creeped in. You guys can probably see her in my chair right here. She's cute, just like Winter's cute. But are you taking the time to actually consume the information and leave an intentional response? And I got like 4 of these today, and it blows my mind that it even still happens. The auto responder DMs, right? So if I'm taking the time to send an intentional message to you and I get an auto responder, don't ever expect a response from me, period. Right? Because the auto responder is, thanks so much for contacting us for all your real estate needs. Here's my phone number and my contact information. We'll get back to you shortly. Like, you just completely ruined the connection, right? Because I left a genuine, I'm sitting there replying to your story, taking time out of my day to create a connection with you. There's obviously a reason and a purpose for that. So be genuine, right? So first and foremost, watch it, read it, look at the copy on it. If someone types out information or types out a phrase or a statement, read it and reply to the story with some form of value, nostalgia, et cetera, and then end it in the form of a question. And what happens is it tells the person on the other side, wow, this person actually took the time to watch my story or listen to whatever the video was. And then they ask me a question. So yeah, as the receiver of that message, naturally, I'm going to go ahead and spend more time on my reply. So you're going to get a lot longer replies. You're going to get a lot more consistent replies, all of the things. And then that ties into part number 2, which is, are you continuing the conversation? So that's where what I'm trying to articulate comes into play. Are you valuing those potential relationships the same way you would meeting somebody in real life. Because imagine if I had sent you that message, Jeff, years ago, many years ago now, and you responded, and then I was like, okay, well, he responded, cool, I'm just going to go on to the next one, right? I took genuine time to create a relationship with you, and you took genuine time out of your day to create a genuine relationship with me. And now look at where we are. And that's the point. I don't think either one of us got into it for the sake of business. I think it organically turned into that. But the reality is that the relationship was built based off of a shared interest and value that we felt like we could give one another. And so I think that's the difference between a successful person and a not, right? It comes down to that. Are you willing to value a virtual handshake or a virtual relationship the same way an in-person relationship, and invest the same kind of time that you would in the virtual one, knowing that it could and hopefully will turn into a in-person one?
It really makes no sense why somebody wouldn't value it the same way. In fact, I would argue that the online ones are limitless. And the way I articulate this when I'm talking about this to audiences is I'm like, think about what we did 10 years ago to market our businesses. You know, I mean, you basically had a few options. It was, television or radio, super expensive, billboards, grocery store carts, print media. Like that's what we could do to market our business. And they're all very expensive. And then we could go to networking events like a local chamber or a BNI or our church or wherever it was that we could interact with people. But the amount of people that we could reach on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is very limited or very costly. And even comparatively, like television, radio, billboard, a social reach is far more infinite and far more consistent. Like a billboard, they have to be driving down that road. A television, they have to be watching that show. Social, like they're sitting on the toilet, they're laying in bed, they're sitting on public transit, they're sitting at the office, and they're doing it 2.5 hours of every single day. That's what the average human is spending on social. So it's like, yeah, anybody who's sitting there thinking right now, like a live handshake is more powerful than a virtual one. I'm not going to disagree with that in principle, but the amount, how many people do you have to touch to get those handshakes? And it's just far more efficient to create these opportunities on social. It's crazy.
Well, I think it's scalable. Point blank, it's scalable.
Yeah.
Right. And on an episode of my podcast recently, I interviewed a lady who specializes in KV Core, and she's built her business on teaching and executing trainings for KV Core. And it was really interesting because somehow we got on this tangent about how many important people we have in our career, like who are the tipping point people that have helped us kind of create the careers that we've created. She's a mama for those of you who know me. I have one. We're getting ready to hopefully have number 2 soon-ish. And so thinking about that, like how can I leverage my value and do it at scale? And there's only one way I can do that, and it's by creating relationships virtually. Right? Because I know that for me personally, as a mom and as a wife, my rule is I'm only gone once a month. So once I'm booked for the month for some speaking gig or something, some event, that's it. And if somebody else wants me for that month, the answer is no. Hey, I'll get you on the next one. And that's a commitment that I've made to myself, and to my family. But the beautiful thing about that is that why Instagram is so powerful and why I feel like my team and I have continued to be as successful as we've been is because we look at the opportunities that we create online as caveats to what happens next year, right? I'm almost booked out entirely for 2023. I think we have 2 months that we're not booked for, one of which is December, which I won't allow anyway. So how cool is that, right? That I'm now focused on creating my relationships for what is to come next year already. And we're still we're in February now. I was going to say no, we aren't. It's January 31st. See, that's what, I don't even know what it is, but you get my point, right? And then this is a good question for you, Jeff, because I think that you can really speak into this. So if you made a list, and this goes for everybody, you made a list of your top 100 clients or top 100 business counterparts, relationships, whatever you want to quantify them as. There's winter. New shoe's going to make an appearance. So if you make a list of those 100 people, who are those people? And then you said, okay, I'm going to go see one of them every single month for the entire year. How many, or I'm sorry, one of them per week for the entire year, right? How many weeks is that? That's almost 2 years that it would take you to get through your list of your top 100 people. If you think about that, I can talk to all 100 of those people that are on my list damn near every single day, right? I mean, I can truly have a conversation with the top 20, 30, 40 people in my network or sphere every single day if I wanted to. And that relationship can be solidified in that manner, right? Or kind of built there, so that when that time does come, when we get to spend time in real life, you don't skip a beat at all. And I don't know if you want to chime in on that, Jeff, but I think that for you, you have your list of 100 people is probably a lot deeper than 100. But that's just an idea of how people can understand the power of creating social leverage over having to physically be present in every single one of those conversations.
It's completely changed my life. I mean, you know that. I mean, I know I'm answering this rhetorically for you, but I'll answer. I'll give. I could go many ways with the answer to the reach. But if you had asked me 5-6 years ago, we were stuck in a rut, and I think a lot of you listening to this probably you've either been there, you're there right now, and you plateau. Like you get to a place where like you're just struggling to grow. And the one thing that I never really took, like I can't look back and say I had this brilliant idea and it was video and social and this is going to take my business somewhere. I started doing it. I started, my thought process was simply this: I'm going to differentiate. I'm going to be different, and I'm going to go somewhere where other people aren't. And still, the funny thing is, Michelle, is even to this day, here we are 5, 6, 7 years later. I would have, if you would have asked me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'd be like, well, 5, 6, 7 years from now, this is going to be mainstream. Still to this day, like here I am, you are living, breathing proof. We've 5x'd our business, created multiple opportunities as a result, and people just don't buy into it, or they don't understand it, or they don't have the patience for it. But it's no different than anything. Like if you commit to a lead aggregator and you go buy leads, it's a numbers game, right? And it's going to take time, and it's probably going to be 6 to 12 months, maybe longer, to actually turn an ROI. If you go to Farm and Neighborhood, what does any good farming coach tell you? This is going to be a 2 to 3 year plan. This is going to take time. And social is the exact same way, except for me, gosh, not only is it infinite, not only does it give me a blank canvas on the world, and for most realtors, that doesn't matter because you're only working a geographic area, but it just allows you, like you said, to scale to a place where the parasocial relationship aspect of this thing is absolutely incredible. And now all of a sudden, and Michelle, I had somebody message us today. He was getting a haircut, and he went to the barber, and this is a guy that we coach. And he said, the barber said, aren't you that guy who does those dog videos? And, you know, he sent us all a message, and we're like, this is the validation, you know, that's that digital celebrity that you can't get if you don't do this. And guess, you know, he's a pet rescue type of guy. That's where his heart and soul is. That's what he does with his free time.
I love
And now it's going to bleed back, you know, into his business because he's becoming known as that. And I don't know if that answers your question, because I had to step away for half a second, but man, I could preach on this for hours.
Yeah, no, it's so in line with it. And here's the thing that my heart is telling me to say, which is so many people are kind of afraid of the initial financial investment and time investment. And I think they're also, which is a whole nother conversation, probably, there's a lot. And again, anybody, I know we've had a whole bunch of people jump in here since I asked this, but if you're here listening to us and you went to Inman last week, comment in the chat box on Zoom, comment on Facebook, let us know that you were there. I was there. And there was just a lot for me, right, to take away, you know, and for me, it wasn't about the speakers. It was about the opportunity to network and to put a face to name for a lot of people who knew of me and hadn't met me in real life, which was phenomenal. LobbyCon, as they say. But one of the biggest takeaways that I had from lots of breaking bread and conversations over a glass of wine or a dinner or whatever it was, is that the social media space has really made people struggle with why this isn't working, because the people that have entered the industry saying, hire me, are ruining it for a lot of us who really genuinely are trying to do this the right way for our clients. And so it's creating a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, because they're like, well, why would I spend $3,000 on this? Or why would I spend $2,000 on this? Because I already spent $2,000 on this. And well, that didn't work. And so I think the takeaway for me that I wanted to give back to all of you guys is, ask yourself this question: is that person a relationship person? Is that person a transaction person? When you get on the phone, are you asking them really hard questions, and are they dodging it? Right. And I think that that's a big part of this, because I'm a relationship person. Jeff, you're a relationship person. We spend time every single day emphasizing the relationships, not just of our clients, but of our people in our sphere. You know, Jeff, you and I don't talk every day. But when we do talk, it's like we haven't not talked. And that's the point. And I've really struggled, because I had a lot of people that came up to me and they're like, you know, Michelle, we really want to work with you, but we're tapped out. We spent all of our money on this and it didn't work. And that makes me sad, because that means that the people who they invested in didn't care about them. They didn't take the time to listen to them and explain to them why this is such a relationship-based business. And sometimes, you know, like it or not, those of you guys listening, right, you have to pay to play. It's not free, right? There's a reason why we're in the seats we're in. But I can tell you that you can get the feeling from somebody, whether it's a client of yours, right? Whether you, as the agent, you have a client that reaches out to you, you can tell right away, probably your intuition is telling you right out of the gate, this is going to be a great client. This is not going to be a good client. You can feel that, right? And I am not a real estate agent. I have my license, but I don't sell. And I can tell you, even getting ready to sell my house here in Leesville, the amount of like vultures that are out there on social media that come out when you post anything, it's disgusting, right? And most of them don't even read your post when they reach out to you initially. And it's embarrassing to the person on the other side of it. So I think it comes down to lots of things. And I know I'm going on a tangent, but again, why are some people successful and why are some people not? And the one word is relationships. Focus on a relationship, value the relationship more than you value the transaction, right? So if I value my relationship with a client, right, and I put all of my time and my energy, and I make sure that person feels loved and heard and seen, that person is going to become the biggest raving fan. I don't need to go out and actively just continuously prospect, because if I put love where the love needs to be, that person's going to go do it for me. And then that person's going to say, oh yeah, it's Michelle, go look at her Instagram, or, oh, it's Jeff, go look at his Instagram. Or it's whoever, I'm looking at Ruth on, Ruth is in the audience, right? Oh yeah, it's Ruth. You guys go follow her on Instagram, right? And that's what's going to happen. But we don't spend enough time focused on relationships, and we don't value our time creating relationships on Instagram or on social the way we should. We think of it as an afterthought. I'll get to it when I get to it. And has to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I want you to get granular here in a little bit and talk about some specific strategies. But the one thing I do also want to say to that is, you know, mention it's that long game, Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Ruth says hi. And,
hi, Ruth.
But I had this argument with the president of our company a week ago, and not argument, but kind of a debate. And, you know, he made the comment, like a lot of people do, which was something to the effect, it wasn't these exact words, but it was something to the effect of, you know, stop playing on social media and go sell something. Right. And it was laughable, but it was great because it allowed that opportunity to debate. And I told him, and I'll tell anybody that will listen to me talk, is that I will take now and going forward a social strategy over a traditional business sales strategy all day long and twice on Sunday. And let me tell you why. I'm not here to tell you that traditional strategies don't work. They absolutely do. In fact, really, you should push them together. You should have a little bit of both in your strategy until you spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years doing the social strategy, when then all of a sudden you're just attracting business. Michelle doesn't cold call. I don't cold call. I don't have to. Business comes to me because I spent the time doing this. But I told him, I said, listen, and his name is Doug. I said, Doug, you could be the perfect real estate agent or loan officer, have the perfect transaction, and everything goes beautifully and your customer loves you, right? And you close and you drop them into a CRM. You essentially spam them for however many years. Let's call it 5 years to the next time they need to do a transaction. 5 years, you're just dumping a bunch of garbage on them because they didn't have to be put in that spam. Meanwhile, and they loved you, by the way. And meanwhile, I have something relatable to them. We both have children the same age. We both golf. We both garden. We both exercise. We both travel. There's something that I have that was relatable to that customer. I'm a consistent poster on social media. We've made a connection on social media because that's where they want to be. That's where they spend their time. That's what they do for entertainment. And now I spent 5 years establishing a rock solid friendship, relationship, know, like, and trust with them. It doesn't matter how much they loved you. Here's my prediction. I'd say 9 out of 10 are going to use the person that they've now established a very strong relationship with versus the professional relationship. Even though it went well, now all of a sudden they think to themselves, I want to work with the person that I have a connection with. Not only do I trust them, but honestly, I want to support them, because that person like supports me and gives me hits of dopamine when I post something. And he really didn't have much to say in response to that. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm making a prediction. And I'd say on the worst case, Michelle, 8 out of 10 are going to choose the relationship over the professional.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that's only going to continue to compound going forward, because Gen Z and millennials have, it's well documented. Like, they want to feel connected. They want community because they don't have human interaction anymore. And that's only going to continue to get worse. And so as you continue to progress in your business life, understanding this, and just know that, hey, there's nothing wrong with doing it the old fashioned way. I think you're going to have more of an uphill battle against the Michelles and the Jeffs of the world, who have the ability to establish a stronger relationship with your customer. And they're going to probably choose me on the next one over you because of that relationship. So with all of that said, before you comment, I want you comment on that, but I want you to go into, because we talked more specifically and you mentioned DMs. So I kind of want you to give the audience, like, who's sitting there listening to us, and they're like, we believe you. But now what should I be doing? And I think that's the next question is, so for somebody who's a novice, what are the next steps? What is a good next step in order to start to establish this and actually have those meaningful conversations without sounding like a used car salesman?
Yeah. This literally just happened today, so it's super top of mind for me. So anybody who's ever gone to an event, right? You know that when you get home from the event, in your brain, you're just like, oh my gosh, I talked to this person, this person, this person, like this list is just endless. Oh my gosh. So what I did is I came home and I made a list. And as I was going through the week, I made a list every day, right? Because there are obviously new faces and new names and people that I didn't know. And people are handing me their cards, which who even uses those anymore, but it's besides the point. So I'm making a list as I go through. And then on Monday, yesterday, I spent my entire morning, a good solid 4 hours, creating connection, following them on Facebook. We followed each other on Instagram. I was sending an email, I was sending a message, and it wasn't anything other than, oh my gosh, it was amazing to get to chat with you. Here's all of my takeaways from our conversation. This is whatever the call to action was that they offered me. I followed up on that. And it was simple, but here's where this gets into what can someone do, right? And my team laughingly says I'm an elephant because I can just remember every conversation I've ever had. I can remember who introduced me. I can remember what the conversation was on the phone. Like all of it. It's just my superpower, and probably why I'm the CEO and not an employee, but that's something that I'm just really good at. So one of the things that you guys can do as executors of a strategy, and And if you're not good at remembering, make the damn list, right? Make the Excel doc, make the Word. I don't care. It's a Google sheet. It doesn't matter what it is. But every single day, send, 10 to 15 messages to people who you have had a previous relationship with. And it can be, or it shouldn't be anything to do with business, period, right? Go look at something that they recently posted. Jeff, you guys just got a French bulldog. I haven't reached out and talked to you really much about the Frenchie, right? So if I were using you as an example, I would send you a message and just be like, hey, oh my gosh, I just saw the Frenchie. Where have I been? I feel like we need to catch up. How are you? ? Right? And now I just reconnected a relationship that has already been strong for years, right? But you now know that I'm paying attention. I care. I'm there. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm asking a question about you, right? Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be on the receiving end of a question where someone's asking about you? How are you doing? Right? AKA, I want to feel seen. I want to feel heard. I want to have the opportunity to, go on a tangent and feel like I can vent, right? Especially us women, we love to vent. Right. But if I do if I do 10 to 15 of those, Sarah would agree with me. I know it. But if I do that every single day, Monday through Friday, if all I do as a business owner is I send 10 to 15 of those messages every single day, I guarantee you my business would triple this year. And I already know that it will. Right. So because why? Right? Because I'm creating a touch point with someone who I've already built a pre-existing relationship with. So that's kind of part one to your question, right? So what can I do in my DMs right now? Part two to my question, or to your question, excuse me, is go prospect, right? And how do I personally prospect? I prospect through referral, right? Everybody and their mom likes to say, I'm the referral agent. I don't have to do any cold calling or any marketing because I'm the referral guy. Right? But in reality, you have an opportunity to use social as a referral platform, right? So if you spend a lot of time building content, you put content out, you get a lot of engagement from people, you're talking and you're doing what I'm talking about, going and sending 10 to 15 messages to people you're already connected with. And then you start to leverage the referral side. I'm going to use you as an example, Jeff, because it's easy and you're right in front of me. Let's say you are the host of a podcast that I haven't been on. Right. And I'm like, oh, well, that would be a good opportunity for me to get on this podcast that I haven't been on. I'm going to reach out to you. Or I'm going to go look at your social. I'm going to scroll back and I'm going to see some of the stuff you've posted. I'm going to see who some of the previous guests or recent guests have been. And guess what? If I know any of them, I'm going to name drop them. Right. And I'm going to say, hey, I know you just had Phil Treadwell on. Funny, I was actually on Phil Treadwell's podcast. It was the very first podcast I was ever on back in 2019. I feel like there might be an opportunity for some synergy. I have a podcast too. Would love to have you on if it makes sense. Are you available to jump on a Zoom next week? Bingo, right? Now you're way more likely to respond to me than you would if we didn't have the referral or the common person in mind. But what did I do? I took the time to go find a common relationship. There's the word again, a common relationship that you and I both share. Right. And I want to get more granular to the real estate agent specifically, because I think for you and I, Jeff, it's a little easier. But if you're a real estate agent, the theory or the strategy remains the same, right? You went to an event, you hosted, or you were the sponsor for some Christmas thing last month. Maybe you were the sponsor at some gym this month, right? You met people, you shook people's hands. Right. I was just in New York City. We did one of those little car ride things, right? Where you drive around in Central Park and the guys on the bicycle driving or bicycling you around. That guy took a ton of pictures for us. What?
I think that's called a rickshaw.
That. I didn't know. I was on it with Tiffany, my girlfriend, and COO. We were just like, that sounds fun. Here's $100. And we did it. We spent like 2 hours in it. It was great. But we took the time to get to know him. He then followed both of us on Instagram. He's not a real estate agent. He's just a young kid, right? But if you were a real estate agent and you took the time to let that guy take a photo of you and help you with your pictures and all of the great places, and then you connect with him on social media, he connects with you, he's not going to forget who you are. He's going to be like, that was that cool person that let me take pictures of him. And now we're connected on social, right? So if that's one of your people that you just touch point, hey, I don't know how, or I don't know if you're still in the rickshaws or doing the rickshaw thing, but just checking in to let, see how you're doing. It looks like from your most recent post, you went on a trip to Germany. How was it? Question mark. Right. So you're just creating like a genuine conversation. But I think the piece that people are missing is they don't do the research, right?
Yeah.
So they go to do the touch point, but then they don't look at something they recently posted and insert that into the message. So the initial message sounds really car salesy, where it's like, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah.
You can do the same exact thing. The act is the same. The message is different. The sound of the message, the receival of the message, and how someone interprets it is so different. If you take the time to focus on the relationship first, then the rest of it.
Yeah, we're in such a rush
Does that
to
make
make
sense?
we're in such a rush to make a sale. No, you're right, and I think that's the biggest piece of the message, because you gave them something tactical to do. But I feel like so many salespeople, just going to be very vague here, just have sales breath, and you just can't get out of your own way because you're in such a rush to make a sale. And listen, if this is not easy. I mean, I think, and I don't have to tell this audience this, like there's going to be a mass exodus from this industry over the next 12 months. Because why? Because there was a mass entrance during COVID when people were at home, and it's like, well, I'll just go take my test and do this because it looks easy. Why does it look easy? Because realtors make it look easy on social, right? And they make it look fun, but we all know it's not. And so I agree with you. Like, and I'm very, very, very passionate about this, because I do believe, as I made reference to my comment yesterday, that our industry, I don't even believe this. I know this. I have young adult kids, Gen Z kids, borderline millennial, and on one of them, and they tell me, because I asked them, I'm like, what is your perception of real estate? And to us, to our generation, like we know exactly what we mean when we say used car salesman. That's like a cliche. Guess what that new cliche is? A real estate agent. Why? Because we do exactly what Michelle has described here. And if Michelle, it's funny that you say that. Like, you made the comment to shift the way you converse with someone. The funny thing is, our society has gotten so damn lazy, we don't even hit the like button anymore. Like, so it's like, you got to have some massive intention with social. Social to me is not social. Social is a tool, and it's a vehicle. And I go into social to create, and I go into social to connect. Those are the two things that I spend all of my time doing. If I'm lucky, I scroll. I use it for entertainment. But you know how it is, Michelle. It's like, because people tease me all the time. Oh, you didn't see my post, you're Mr. Social. I don't scroll social. I don't have time. I use it with intent. I go to my notifications. I see who's interacting with me. I see who comments. Then I go with intent to go comment on their stuff and go talk to them, because I'm establishing a relationship. And I know that if I just keep doing this consistently, because it already has, it turns into conversations. Those conversations turn into opportunities. You know what opportunities turn into?
Yeah. There's one thing that you just said that just perked my ears up, because it reminded me of something else that I think needs to be said. And look at our businesses 3 years ago. I think that's a great time frame. And a mutual friend of ours, Grant Wise, he's my business coach. He's an amazing friend and connection because of you, Jeff. Right. So that's funny to think about. But he made a comment to me on one of our coaching calls recently, that Michelle, like the version of you 3 years ago is so different than the version of you now. And my business model was the same. What I do is the same, right? The execution of it has obviously gotten better and better and better and grown over the years, of course, or else I wouldn't still be in business. But the reality is that there were so many moments over the last 3 years where even I, with a successful business and a great looking bank account for the business, like wanted to quit, because it's not easy. And there are days where you're like, am I making any progress? Am I doing is this working? Is anything happening? Right. But if I looked at who I was 3 years ago, and if I looked at what my business was 3 years ago, and I have a brag book, like literally right here. I have to show this because Grant made me do this. So it's called Michelle's brag book, right? So any of you guys who are listening and do not have one of these, make one. Because one of the things he said is, when you're trying something new, when you're doing something for your business, or you're trying to create a new habit, it's very easy to get bogged down by the things that we aren't doing or the things that aren't happening, right? But like, holy shit, what my business looks like now compared to what it was. And so if you use something like the brag book, you can say, what are my small victories? What are my wins? What are the things that, oh, now I'm producing content consistently and now I'm having conversations consistently. Can I look at that and can I find the win? Because if you focus on the wins, it becomes a compound thing, right? So tiny hinges swing big doors. I know I've said that before, but if you do one thing right and you focus on doing one thing right every single day over the course of a year, and then you do that again every year moving forward, the difference between day number 1 and day number whatever 365 times 3 is, you're not the same person. You're not the same business, but you have to remind yourself of what those small wins are, because if not, you're going to get bogged down by common question or common statements. Every sales call I ever have, right? One of the questions they ask, Michelle, what's the ROI? If I spend X amount of dollars with you, what's my ROI? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong question.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about results all day long. I have no problem doing that, but that's not the question you should be asking me, right? The question is, what is this going to make my business look like? How is this going to impact my business from today, 365 days from now, 365 plus 365, and so on and so forth. I'm not the only one that's read The Compound Effect. Most real estate agents have read that book. It's a no-brainer, guys, but we have to focus on small wins and small victories and relationships that were made or relationships that were strengthened, right? If the relationship wasn't strengthened, then that's your fault. Because if the relationship was made and you don't follow up with them and you don't use Instagram or use Facebook or use whatever as a strengthening tool, that's your fault. And then if somebody says to you, or if like, let's pretend, you know, you hire a social media company and you're like, well, I haven't gotten any ROI, right? And you write down in your book all the things that you have gotten. Oh, what are all your successes? Oh, well, I had this person who reached out to me on a video, but nothing ever came of it. Why? I can bet you it's your fault. I can bet you nothing came of that because you did not follow up and you did not re-engage that person when the door was open to do so. Right? So again, you are more worried about wanting a quick or fast transaction than you were the relationship, knowing that it was going to take time to build that relationship to make it turn into something. Yep. So if every one of the calls or every one of the DMs I got about asking me for business, if I just never followed up with them and I'm sitting here saying, yeah, Instagram's not working for me, I got to look in the mirror and very quickly realize that's my fault.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to that word. It comes down to the difference between successful people and non-successful people is a focus on a relationship and all of the systems and the things that you can do tactfully every single day to maintain them. And it takes time.
Yeah.
Period.
But also it doesn't take a ton of time. Like, we're not telling you to start tomorrow and this is your 8-hour-a-day job. Like, allocate an hour a day, focus on a couple of things, focus on consistently being present, AKA posting and being authentic and being yourself, the things that will actually cause relatability, sprinkle in real estate, and then focus on, like Michelle said, like, go consume your target audience's content. And I'm not talking about Kim Kardashian or Gary Vee. Like, go consume your past customers. Be intentional about this. Go consume people that have the potential to be referral partners. Go stalk them, show them love, and it will spark conversations. Because remember what I said about the debate versus me and Doug. I'll take my chances all day long because I'm establishing a much stronger relationship with that customer. And that's what you all should be doing, because even, I don't know how you feel about this and we don't have time to discuss it, but even traditional CRMs, like, we use them, but I think they suck. By and large, I think they suck. It's just a nice automated tool. But the reality is, like, it's the same thing as anything else. It's automated. It's not authentic. It's 10 tips to sell your house in the spring. Hey, now's a good time to refinance. Hey, now's a good time to sell. Hey, here's a night. I mean, it's just garbage, right?
Stop it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
That's the content I got to stand on every stage for the rest of this year and say that what you just said, because it is such garbage. I had a call earlier today with a mortgage company, and the mortgage company, the lady who was asking me to come speak at an event, She's like, I won't even use my own marketing team. I still don't get why my company pays this person a salary to be our marketing department, when in reality, like, I would never post the content that's being produced there, coming from someone who's now the COO of an organization.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild, right? And it's not because the person doing the marketing content themselves is not a great person. It's the type of content that's being produced in that space is exactly what you said. Here's the 5 steps to the home buying process, right? And here's a trick. And anybody, if you have questions about it, obviously, please reach out to either Jeff or I, because he can answer it too. But what should your email content, what should your drip content be? And my drip content, anybody who's on my email list, I have never had somebody email me saying, man, Michelle, this is just boring vanilla ass shit that you're sending out. Nobody would ever say that to me. Or has. And why? Because what I do is I use stuff like this, right? A recording, a Facebook Live. I've done a live speaking event, and we take a segment from it, right? And that content goes out in our emails. Now we have drips built out, right? We have 77 emails built out over the course of 7 different sequences. So each of the sequences is 11 emails, right? At the end, the final 2 emails of each of those 7 sequences is, hey, you've just consumed a ton of my content. If you're still sitting here not taking action, here's the link, jump on my calendar. Let's actually talk about it, right? So there's a way for you to drip on people and for you to automate connection, right? Or to automate touch points without it being sleazy car salesman, and without it feeling like dry, vanilla marketing department content that literally no one will open.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I don't think we can say anything more about it. I think they get the point. I think they understand what they need to do. What would be your parting thoughts for anybody walking away from today besides connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say I love talking to people about this stuff, because it's my personal goal is 1 person a day for 365 days over the course of a year. That's 365 people that I know I get to serve that year. You know, and I think the thing for me and the theme of this year is just being a lot more intentional for me personally on those big, not big, actually the opposite of big, but those individual relationships, right? Because those individual relationships is how you create big opportunity. And all of our clients, all of our people, they get to talk to me, every single one of them. And people are still blown away by that. They're like, why? I didn't realize you were going to be the one answering the phone. Well, of course I am. I'm the one that created the damn thing. It should be me.
It's a good sign.
I would say, yeah, I would say, connect with me on Instagram. And honestly, you know, I'm just a mom. I'm just a wife. I love my husband. I hate the town we live in, and I can't wait to move. But we are building our dream home in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I'm going to start documenting that process. We break ground on Friday, and
exciting.
It's just a way for people to stay connected to me as an actual human. And I love humans, right? I just like any other good millennial, like want the connection and want that. And I think that that's what we need to start focusing on this year. So if that's you, I'd love to do it with you.
Love it. Michelle, thank you so much. Look forward to the next one. And if you didn't see it already, her Calendly is in the chat. Michelle, where can they follow you on Instagram if they don't already?
Oh yeah. Sorry. It's Berman Media Social. I can't believe I forgot to do that. I'm sitting over here talking about Instagram. And
hey, I got you. I got you.
Do you want me to type it, or are you typing it?
Yeah, type it. Yeah, go ahead. Berman Social,
okay.
Though, just so they know.
I just put it in the chat box. It's Berman Media Social. But honestly, if you guys just type in my name, Michelle Berman, on Instagram, it'll pop up in the search bar. And I will be at SocialCon. So Jeff and I are gonna get to hang out in real life in April. So if you're not registered for SocialCon, come hang out with Jeff and I. We're cool.
That's right. Good talk. See you later.
Cool.
Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thanks.